Good afternoon. I'm going to be real slow just because people are just entering the room. And so that way they know exactly a little bit about who I am before we launch into letting Christina Berry from Sentara talk about the new grad RN recruiting. So I'm Gigi Davis. I'm the Job and Internship Coordinator at Piedmont Virginia Community College. I know you guys get lots of emails from me. So I hope that what we do to communicate about wonderful information sessions like this, that Christina is being so wonderful to take time to do, just because I know Sentara Martha Jeff Hospital is one of our biggest hospitals in the area. Of course, we've got another one here. But I know it's also intimidating to tackle the job search process, especially with larger institutions. So Christina, I really appreciate your taking the time. And so for people, if you have questions, put them in the chat box. And so we're gonna, we're gonna try to answer your questions as they bubble up. But I'm gonna let Christina take it over, and she's gonna introduce herself and what she does to try to help connect you with opportunities at Sentara.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for your time today. It is a pleasure to have a chance to talk with PVC students, and I wish you the very best as you're starting to wrap up your studies and get ready to graduate and start your NCLEX process. It's so exciting, and I know it's a very busy time for you, so I appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see my presentation. Can everybody see that okay?
Oops, it went away. Now it's your email. So, okay, now there you are.
Okay, there I am. Okay. Well, as Gigi said, my name is Christina Berry. My name is out there for anybody that is a new grad. I'm here to help you. I am the Sentara System RN New Grad Liaison. And what that means is I support new grads who, for any hospital in the Sentara system. I can plug in anywhere you want to go with one application. And we'll talk a little bit about that shortly. But my role is to help you through the application process and get you connected as quickly as possible to the recruiters and the managers in the hospitals you want to work in, and without a lot of hubbub. So I'm happy to help you with that process. And so today I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that Sentara offers to you as a new grad. We are very happy to have you and welcoming for new grads. We have all kinds of special benefits and policies and procedures and all kinds of neat things for you. But most of those are competitive salaries with automatic raises as 1 year, a competitive and comprehensive benefit package that you can pick and choose the benefits you'd like to use or not use, depending on what your needs are. That goes hand in hand with a pay in lieu of benefits benefit for anyone who has their own benefits outside of their employer, such as if you're still under your parents' insurance, or if you have your own insurance, or you have a military spouse or something like that, and you don't need any additional Sentara benefits. Sentara will pay you an additional percentage on your base pay in lieu of the actual benefits, so thus the name. And so when you're offered a job, our recruiters will give you the opportunity to look over that policy, read through it really carefully. At least that's my recommendation, so you understand what benefits you keep and which you don't. And then you can apply for that during open enrollment, during your initial open enrollment as a new employee. That changes again in our open enrollment at the end of the year, October, November-ish, for the next calendar year. So if at that point you want to drop that benefit, you can, or if you opt not to take it now, you can pick it up at that point. So it's a great option for you if you don't need our benefits. We also have tuition assistance, and Sentara is very pro-education, as we'll talk about. And if you want to go back to school and get your BSN and your MSN and so on and so forth, and all the way through your professional career. You want to go back to school and continue to study and improve yourself and improve in your chosen profession. Sentara is very helpful with that. It starts with a $2,600 benefit when you've been with Sentara 6 months, and it goes up when you've been with us 3 years. It goes up $1,000 to $3,600. And then when you've been with us for 10 years, you're a long-term employee, it goes up to $4,600. So it is a commitment that Sentara has to us as employees to help us to continue our education and to grow in our careers. Sentara also offers a sign-on bonus for all new grads. That is a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid out over your first 2 years. We have relocation assistance opportunities if that's something that you need and you'd like to move to any of our locations. So we are happy to help you with that. And that is handled on a case-by-case basis. So you want to talk to your recruiter if that's a need. And we have automatic enrollment into the Sentara Nurse Residency program, which we'll talk about now. Our nurse residency program is part of that continuing education that Sentara provides. All of us as Sentara employees have some form of continuing training that we do throughout the year. But for you as a new grad, it can be a little uncertain time because you're transitioning from the cocoon of school and all the book learning, and you're transitioning professionally and into the role that you've trained for. And it can be sometimes a little stressful. You might have a lot of questions. So our nurse residency program runs parallel to your employment for your first year. So we'll get you to a job offer and we'll get you hired, and then you'll start in your orientation. And about 90 days after your start date, you're probably going to be at the point where you're working in your department and working with your preceptor and learning and working with patients. And about that time, your hospital should have a cohort large enough for the NRP program to start. So your educators in your hospital will let your hiring manager know it's time for you to start. And so it'll be put on your calendar. And once a month for 4 hours, you'll step out and go into a classroom setting with other new grads and with specially trained educators. And you'll get that support and extra training and resources that you need to be successful. You'll study things like your role as a nurse, patient outcomes, career pathing. There's an evidence-based project. And there's a graduation and a pinning at the end. But one of the most important pieces is the time that you have with your coworkers and a chance to discuss some of the experiences that you're having, called Tales from the Bedside. And Tales from the Bedside is what it sounds like. It's stories and experiences that you're bringing out of your work experience and bringing back to class. And that's a time for you to share with your instructors and your fellow students. And that's a good time for you guys to share, oh, that happened to me kind of experience, and get advice from each other. Give advice if you've had a similar experience. And it's a safe place for you to ask questions and get some guidance and some advice from experienced nurses. So it's an awesome, supportive experience for you in your first year, because we want you to be successful. And if you're not successful, we're not successful. So the Sentara Nurse Residency program is very valuable to you. There is no additional application. That when you apply for the nurse residency program, and there's no contract or any kind of commitment. It's just continuing education that's part of your employment. So as I mentioned, the Sentara does have a lot of locations. And if you're interested in Sentara Martha Jefferson, I will certainly be happy to connect you to that recruiter. But as you see, we have locations all over Virginia, and we are starting to grow into North Carolina. We have our first location in Elizabeth City. We've been partnered with them for quite a while now. But we are also partnering with Cone Health. And that partnership is just in its early stages. But very soon we'll have even more opportunities into the state of North Carolina. So anytime you are looking for growth, or even now, as you graduate from school, if you want to move into other areas of Virginia, we have a location for you, and we'd be happy to help you with that. So as you're ready to consider employment opportunities, I'm here to help you. As I mentioned, I am the resource for new grads, and I am easily contacted. On the bottom of the page, there's nursingcareers.com email and the clbarry@sentara.com. Those are both emails that I manage, and it's the easiest way to reach me for sure, because I do a lot of what I'm doing right now. And so anytime you have questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you in any way I can. But when you're ready, we do hire new grads year round. And so what I would tell you to do is go ahead and start at the beginning, and that would be to apply. You would want to apply at sentaracareers.com, and we have a special category for new grads. So you go to the little drop down box and click New Grad RN, and that will take you to the posting that we have for new grads. All you have to do is apply to that one time. And the streamlined process that we have in place means that I would probably touch base with you by email or by phone, whichever way I can reach you easiest. And what we'll do is we'll just collect some basic information, like what type of shifts you're looking for. Are you looking for full-time or part-time? What hospitals are you interested in? What departments are you interested in? And that way I can send you to my recruiters, and they in turn can send you to their hiring managers, and we can get you into that interviewing process. So that is the initial steps that you would need to take. And I get a lot of questions about how to do that. And so that is the basic process. If you are a Sentara employee now, I don't assume that we don't have any employees out there, but if you are, just let me remind you that you need to apply through WaveNet. You don't have to come through me. Your job search goes directly on to the hiring managers first. So you can certainly apply through WaveNet when you're ready. I do have some frequently asked questions for new grads. And so one of those would be, when should you submit your application? And as I mentioned, we do hire new grads year round, but it's really a personal preference when you'd like to start the process. There's not really a wrong or a right way to do it. But typically, I advise people to start considering to apply around 90 days prior to graduation. Some students like to wait until they have completed the NCLEX process and graduated and got all out of the way. And if that's you, then that's perfectly fine. We can help you when you're ready. But if you're graduating in May or June or July, now's a good time now to start applying and to start talking with recruiters and managers, as new positions open every day. So we have all kinds of opportunities for you. When would I be eligible for Sentara benefits? And as a new employee, you would be eligible for Sentara benefits on the first day of the month after you've been with us 30 days. So look at the calendar when you get your start date, and you should know when that start date would be. And as I mentioned, we do have open enrollment, and that happens in the October-November timeframe for the next calendar year. How is the new grad RN bonus paid out? If you're full-time, it's paid out at $1,000 at your first paycheck, $2,000 at 1 year, and $2,000 at 2 years. And if you are looking for part-time and you secure a part-time role, we do have a benefit for you as well of $2,500 sign-on bonus, which is paid out there as follows. The $500 at your first paycheck, $1,000 at 1 year, and $1,000 at 2 years. Is it possible for a student nurse to work for Sentara while in school? So if you are a student and you are looking for opportunities while you're still in school, that is definitely something that we can help you with. We have roles like nursing care partners or ED techs that are typically something our managers really enjoy working with students, nursing students for those roles. So you'd want to check out our website, sentaracareers.com, for those job titles, and certainly apply. Our recruiters would definitely want to talk with you and help you with those kinds of positions. Those are great ways for you to start your nursing career and get some of that experience. And then just transfer when you get your RN, we would just transfer you. You heard me talk about how to apply as an internal employee. And as you approach graduation, that would be how you would apply, and we would just transfer you internally. Easy peasy. It's really easy. After graduation, how quickly can I start working? And of course, this will be dependent on two things. We need your educational documents, and we need, which can be your diploma or your final transcript that shows the date your diploma was conferred, or and we also need your license. So what can happen is we can start working with you now. We can get you up to a job offer with the hiring manager, and then we have to wait for those two pieces of information to come through. So when you're able to present that information, you can go ahead and start. And typically what would happen is at the time of your job offer, we'd probably give you 3 to 4 estimated start dates. And so when you are working with our onboarding team, you would turn in your documents as you get them. And so, for example, you've turned in your diploma, but you're still waiting on that NCLEX piece to be cleared and get your license. But once you have it, you can turn that into our HR team, and they put you into the next orientation. We do have orientation every week, and so that's not a problem. And that's basically all the questions that I hear on a regular basis. So I hope that addresses any of the major questions that you may have. And let me see if I can stop sharing there for a second. Again, if you have any questions at all whatsoever, we are very happy to help you. And I'm here for you at any time you need anything.
Well, and it looks like Dana joined us. So Dana, welcome. I'm Gigi, the PVCC, obviously with all this PVCC, and wishing we were flowering like it looks like behind me. I'm ready for spring. So Dana is working at Martha Jefferson Hospital. And Dana, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about working specifically at Martha Jeff? Maybe she had to walk away after she got logged in. Doesn't look like you're on mute. So, well, what I'll do is that I'll go ahead and I have a couple of questions, because I did have a student say, oh, she wasn't finding the new grads, and then she found it. And so, so a question I had, because I know when I used to work at UVA, oh, there she's connecting to audio. So let's see if she gets on audio, and then we'll see if she can talk a little bit. Oh, now you're muted, Dana. Okay, so I have a student question until Dana gets unmuted. Is, can you describe training? How long will we be with a preceptor, and what if at the end of that period, can we extend our training?
Those would be some good questions for the department. I think when Dana comes on, she might be able to answer that better, or at least for how her department works. I do hear from managers, sometimes it's the preceptor piece in the department can depend or vary depending on the department. So I've heard that it can be 12 to 16 weeks, depending. The initial orientation, which is for me as HR, is really a bit more my speed. There is a couple days, partial days of virtual orientation. And then you go and do about 2 weeks of just general required training to get you up to speed with all of the Sentara training and that type of thing. And then you would go and start in the department typically. And of course, they would pair you with a preceptor. And of course, that's more on the department and how they operate. So I'd want Dana to talk about that if she's able to connect. And I hope that answers the question.
Okay. So let's see, Dana, have you been able to, that you're still on mute from what I can see from the screen. So I don't know if you have a chance to hit the unmute, or I can try to unmute you. It's not letting me, yeah. Here, let me make it, maybe I'll make you a co-host and see if that works.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Maybe it's magic making you a co-host. I don't know what caused that, but thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome. So my name is Dana Graves, and I have been with Sentara for 20 years. I have a unique story, as I started out as a new grad on the unit that I manage.
Oh.
So I have done different leadership roles on the unit since I started, and I honestly love working here. I commute an hour to get here, so 2 hours a day driving. There's special connections here. It's like a second family. And my favorite part of being a manager is helping mentor those new grads and get them to where they ultimately want to be. I manage the IMC unit, so some nurses want IMC, that's where they want to be, and then other nurses, I'm going to help develop them and get them to the location where they really want to be. So we're all about promoting nurses, wholeheartedly encourage education. Martha Jefferson actually put me through my BSN and also supports me with my certification because I have my PCCN.
That's wonderful. Now, I don't know if you heard about that question about the preceptor training and if there's a possibility of extending training, if there's a set timeline.
So all of our preceptors go through a workshop, and so they're trained. We also have our competency tools that we use to help guide the orientation. And so for intermediate care, our goal is to do 11 weeks on the unit, but we do work with folks. So if folks need additional time, then we accommodate that. Our goal is to have a new employee feel comfortable and confident with their assignment before they're working independently. We do have wonderful staff here, so we're all hands on deck helping each other as those new things come up that maybe someone didn't get on orientation.
That's great. So I have a couple of questions. And of course, for the viewers out there, feel free to put your questions in the chat box. When I used to work at UVA and helping UVA nurses get jobs, and I had a lot of the faculty say, oh, they're going to all be working at med-surg as their entry level job. And then I've, over the years, have been told, nah, if there are possibilities in other units. So what is that like for Sentara, Martha Jeff?
So we will take new grads in specialty units. The managers are really good about looking at skill sets and making sure that we have that good balance. So it's not that a new grad could never start like an ICU. They kind of will do extended orientations, and I actually work with the ICU manager to help get them some time on IMC also to help complement their learning experience. So it's not that it can't happen, they just have to be mindful. Okay.
And so you mentioned a little bit previously about part-time versus full-time. Actually, Christina did, and so I don't oftentimes see part-time openings. What percentage are part-time versus full-time for Sentara?
So I would say the majority of our team members are full-time. I do have some part-time, and my part-time folks typically are those individuals that want to be every weekend because of kids and alternating, life.
Right. I've also heard that you start, I've heard at other hospitals that you start in one position, you're going to stay in that position for a whole year before you can transition to a different position, whether it's the shift involved in that or the unit. Does that ring true for Sentara, or is there more flexibility?
So I would say there's more flexibility. I've had staff that I've hired for night shift, and they think it's going to be a good fit, and they just can't function. And so I'm actually working with another manager right now. She's got an employee that really needs day shift, and so we're trying to see what we can do to help accommodate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. That can be so important, especially in this day and age of COVID, where everybody got surprised about having to do teaching from home for their kids. And so, of course, hopefully, let's keep our fingers crossed we're coming out of COVID. Has COVID impacted Sentara as for the hiring process or the onboarding process, or is there any? Are there differences going on because of COVID?
The main differences is PPE, like everywhere else. It really hasn't impacted our onboarding. I had multiple staff members that were with us, through this journey, and many of them were new grads. So lots of conversations about helping them navigate, because starting a new career in a pandemic is challenging.
Mm-hmm. And Gigi, I would say that the pandemic has had some positive effects, oddly enough. When it first started, we were all sort of thrown, everybody was thrown. And so we had to sort of think out of the box for some different things that we'd never thought about. And so I mentioned that our orientations are every week, and that was not the case before COVID. We used to do hospital orientations every other week. But some of our primary orientation went virtual. And then, for the need to get staff in quickly, our education group really stepped up to the plate and fixed it so that we can have orientations every week, which has been vital.
Yeah, I would imagine. And are you guys doing virtual, like a Zoom interviews as well, or are you bringing them in the building for interviewing?
Initially with me, the screening that I talked about that gets us sort of the information we need on where you want to go. Some of that is virtual, and some of that is because I am the only person that handles the new grads. And so I have such large groups, it's hard for me to talk to everyone. So I do send out a virtual interview and try to get as many folks to do that as possible, because it helps me move much faster. And initially when COVID started, of course, none of us were allowed to go in and out of the hospital without temperature checks and things like that. So I would say that it's dependent on the unit, it's dependent on the hospital. And I think as you mentioned, we're thinking that COVID is starting to ebb a little bit. So I'm thinking that some of the manager interviews, yes, ma'am, are happening in person, and going back to our pre-COVID round robin kind of interviews as well.
Great.
So yeah, this is Dana. We're having folks come in and interview and get to meet some of the other team members.
Mm-hmm. There are some departments, I think a lot of students will ask if there is an opportunity to do shadowing. And that is also a department preference sometimes. I know the emergency department is specifically one across the system that will do shadowing as part of your interview. And so when your recruiter sets you up for that interview, they'll tell you to bring a set of scrubs so that you can try it out, check it out, get in there and learn what it's like to work in the ED. Dana, would your department offer any kind of shadowing opportunities?
Yes, ma'am. We wholeheartedly encourage that.
Right. So when those opportunities are available, the recruiters would help to make those opportunities happen.
Okay, great. We actually have another question from a participant. I did the first virtual interview in an initial screening. When should I expect contact with information or availability in desired location?
Amelia, I can check on that for you and follow up with you after today's session. Generally, it sort of depends. If you are asking for areas we don't have positions open for, you may not hear from someone immediately. So a lot of times I'll tell a new grad that the more flexible you can be, the better. We are getting newer positions day in and day out. So it may be that we didn't have the department that you wanted right then when you completed the interview, but it may be that we might have something that pops open in the next few days. And I do keep a list of new grads that I've talked to. I go through it periodically. I'm getting ready to go through it for the end of March. And I follow up with the recruiters and say, okay, where are you with these people? They're still interested, and sort of make sure that the recruiters haven't missed you for any reason. And so that's sort of helpful as well. If you have specific questions, or if there's other departments you'll consider, or you're flexible at all, it's certainly helpful for you to let me know. You can certainly email me anytime, and I'm happy to reach out to the recruiters.
That sounds wonderful, Christina, that you serve in this role of connecting the dots, because
Right.
what I oftentimes see is that, people like Dana get so busy on the job that
Right.
it's sometimes hard to, people can get lost in the cracks.
Well, and my job was created for that reason. My job was created so that as the new grads are starting to apply, they may apply for 5 positions. And when you apply, you may be applying for a position that's been open for a little while. And so the managers and recruiters are already in the interviewing process. And it may be, for example, that the day you apply, they fill the position and it closes and you never hear from anyone. And so, or you may apply for an area that's not able to take new grads at that time. And so that gets frustrating for you as the new grad, and it's frustrating for us because we can't help you. So my job is to try to centralize that process. So you only have to apply one time. And then I try to get you plugged in and keep track of where you are in that process. Of course, this time of year, it's like herding cats, but it is it is a challenge, and it's something that I do enjoy, and I'm very excited to work with new grads because it's such an exciting time in your life as you step into that new career. And so that's the benefit of going through the process with me, if that's how you would like to go through it.
Well, and I just want to mention that, a lot of times our nursing students are so busy juggling the school that's very rigorous course. A lot of them have family because a lot of them are adults. And then also just a lot of them have jobs on the side as well. That, if they haven't had time to do a mock interview with us or get their resume all together, and if perhaps they didn't interview that well the first time around, will you also, if they, get some more preparation, will you consider talk with them again? Because I do find that that's what can happen with our nurses.
I do what's called a student roundtable. I did one back in March, and I do a little bit of, it's not so much come and work for Sentara, it's more focused on how to create your cover letter, your resume, and sort of give you some helpful hints on how to handle that hiring manager part of the interview. If you're like me, you get nervous.
Mm-hmm.
You start to sweat a little bit. Interviewing with people, sometimes you're really on the spot. And as a new grad, it may be your very first job ever. And so you don't know how to do that. And so I do have some tips and tricks for that. And anyone that's interested in that can certainly email me, and I'm happy to share that presentation.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much. And he has another great question. If we would like to shadow different areas, who would we contact in order to coordinate something like this?
Dana, do you guys have the ability to do something like that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. So Amelia said, if you would like to shadow different areas, who would we contact in order to coordinate something like this? To shadow in.
Yeah, so typically if we know a candidate, might be interested in ICU, might be interested in IMC, all the managers here, we know each other very well, so we will reach out and help coordinate that shadow experience.
Oh, great. Thank you. I have another question, these the participants, these are great questions, so please keep throwing them in the chat. We give preference at PVCC for people who have CNA license as to get into our RN degree program, and a lot of them will actually like CNA LPN to RN. Are there any hiring salary differences when somebody has had a lot of CNA or LPN experience and or licensures before doing their RN, or is that salary, that entry level RN salary, the same no matter what amount of experience you have?
First, I would encourage you, if you have prior experience like a CNA, LPN, EMT, those kinds of experiences prior to coming to your nursing program, definitely you want to make sure that that's on your resume and thus on your application. Our recruiters and managers will, of course, be interested in that experience and will want to compensate you for that experience if they can.
Great. So those are, I'm trying to think, I was like, oh, I always have some questions, but so folks, if people who are participating, if we're going to be wrapping it up really soon because it's getting late in the day. So if you have any other questions, put them in the chat soon. Or do you guys have any? I mean, I've heard amazing things about working for Sentara. So if you can talk about what you really enjoy about working for Sentara, Dana, I love that you mentioned that how long you've been there and that you drive so long for that. Hopefully you live in a beautiful part of that is a beautiful stress-free drive.
It is.
But if you could say a little bit about what you love about, what you do, that would be a nice way to wrap up. Yeah, so because I'm not seeing more questions in the chat box just yet.
So being part of the system has many, many benefits because we can reach out to our peers when we have problems and escalate concerns and work together. And then even within the hospital, we have shared governance that folks can participate on. We have champions for multiple different areas to help us continually improve on our outcomes. Precepting charge as people are comfortable and have been here for a little bit. So there's definitely plenty of opportunities for growth and development, and folks can be as involved as they want to be, which I think is awesome because then they can help improve nursing.
That's great. I actually did realize I did have another question. Sorry. So how is it easy? Because to transfer between hospitals, because I saw that it's neat that you guys are in Elizabeth City, which is near Nags Head, and the beach, and of course living at the beach has its beautiful elements, even though it has a lot of traffic too during the summertime. So is it easy to transfer between the different Sentara, or is it kind of like what you go through with the first hiring process that everybody's put in the candidacy pool together?
Sentara has, as I mentioned earlier, our employees can apply for positions, some of which can often be posted to employees first, because we want our employees to have the opportunity for promotion first. But when you apply through WaveNet, your application goes directly to the hiring manager and doesn't come to recruitment. I mean, we can see it, but we don't do any specific work around that application. But the managers will look through them and review them and interview their top candidates. So moving around Sentara for promotional opportunities, or if you're relocating, is definitely a benefit for working in a health system the size of Sentara, because as you mentioned, you guys live and work and go to school in a beautiful part of the state. Those of us who live near the beach love the mountains, and for those of you who live in the mountains, love the beach. So it just sort of depends on what your preference is. if you have a desire, or you get married, or you have family somewhere, hopefully we have a location nearby. And life happens once in a while. There could be all kinds of circumstances that you want to or need to relocate. And so before you just flat out quit your job with Sentara, consider that there may be a location near you where you're going to be, where you can transfer to and continue your career and maintain that stability in at least your work life. I know sometimes life can throw a curveball, but if you're able to maintain your job and just move, then that's a real benefit. And of course, as we've talked a little bit already today, Sentara is very supportive of education and has great benefits. And so there's lots of great reasons to work with Sentara if that's something that you choose to do. And of course, we're very happy to have as many new grads as we can.
That's great. And it's a wonderful way to wrap up. I do know that, I kind of question why anybody has a baby anywhere else than Sentara Martha Jefferson Hospital. Because I have my child there. It is it's almost like going to a hotel. Because
We do have a very pretty facility, yes.
Yes, and you have parking.
Yes.
Yes, and walking trails. It's very pretty.
That's something one of your competitors does not have much
Yes.
of.
I think Sentara Martha Jefferson was nominated the most beautiful hospital in the state of Virginia, which it
Yes.
very much is. I mean, if you want to work in a pretty place, that is a great place to be.
And then I think there's sometimes even the person playing the grand piano there at the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple hospitals that do that. Sometimes I'm walking through, there's a hospital here in Norfolk, and I'll walk through the lobby and hear this music going, and I'm like, wow, you almost feel like a really nice hotel, it's nice if you're a patient, because it sort of puts you at ease.
And the family of the patient.
Right.
That's the thing, is that it has much nicer spaces for family to come be with the patient. So I think it's a really a beautiful, beautiful hospital. So just so that you guys know that this is being recorded, this will be available on the Career Services YouTube channel. I will add it to the spreadsheet of regional employers. It will be on our special events website through the end of the semester. So so that's for the people who are participating, and you're talking to any of your classmates, tell them that they have not missed it, that they can actually get access to this information after when we close out. So thank you both so much for taking the time to come to PVCC and to share this great information, because I do know that it's a tough decision for students to exactly to go, but this really facilitates that connection and really helps them know that they have this as a wonderful option for themselves. So, and thank you to the participants who joined us today. I'm going to stop the recording right now in case that just to wrap it up. But thank you so much. But Dana and Christine, if you don't mind going, hang out after the recording's done, okay? So just one second.